If you take to the adventuring trade, you tend to learn the lingo pretty quick. There's one term, though, that a lot of people don't hear until it's too late. A term that in a very real sense might save your life. That term is action economy. If you've never heard it before, action economy at its most basic is how many things you can do in a round. As we all know, you've got a standard action and a move action, as well as a swift or immediate action, and however many free actions you can get away with. You've also got an attack of opportunity, in case it comes up. Now, short of powerful enchantments that let you take more actions than a goblin with a snoot full of dancing dust, that's the basic layout you've got to work with. It's not the size of your turn, though. It's how you use it. So before you roll another initiative check, consider using some of these tips. One of the biggest hits you're going to take in terms of your action economy is actually getting your weapon out. Because you might be ready to rumble if you're crawling through a dungeon, but what about when you've made camp for the night? Or when you're out having a drink? You can't be loaded for bear all the time, and it's going to eat a move action to draw your weapon. There are a few ways around that, of course. The first is to have a weapon you don't need to draw. Whether you're a monk or a brawler or you just take the improved unarmed strike feat, being able to give someone a swift kick in the teeth without provoking an attack of opportunity is always useful. Of course, if you don't want to dip your level or eat a feat, you can always wear a spiked gauntlet or a cestus. If you're really dedicated to your weapon of choice, or if you're a fan of hucking throwing axes, you should take quick draw. You'll never regret having it, trust me on that one. Though if you prefer a smaller blade, a spring-loaded wrist sheath lets you pull steel as a swift action. Lastly, a lot of adventurers forget you can move and draw at the same time. As long as you've got a BAB of +1 or higher, and you move at least 10 feet, you can draw an unconcealed weapon as part of that movement, which is great for those who like to charge right in and hit hard. And of course, if you got a tail like yours truly, it can pull an item off your belt as a swift action. The 5-foot step is an adventurer's best friend. As long as you haven't actually moved from the square you're in, you can take a single 5-foot step in any direction once per round. Now, most of us use this little adjustment to backpedal out of harm's way, or to slowly edge around a monster one step at a time. However, it's important to remember you can take this step at any time. That means if you commit to a full attack action, like a flurry of blows, and your target goes down after the second punch, you can step over his body and keep the pain train rolling on the guy standing behind him. Remember, don't let your attacks go to waste if you can help it. It's the little things that make a big difference, and when you're talking about action economy, there is nothing smaller than swift and free actions, which is why you should use them every chance you get. For example, say you've got your longsword in hand, but you just realized you're fighting a werewolf. Well, you could resheath your sword, draw that silver dagger, and stand there while Fluffy turns you into nibbles. Or, if you remember that dropping an item is a free action, you could toss down your steel, draw your silver, and get one good slash in with it. Or if you took some of my earlier advice, you could take a full attack, because it was only a swift or a free action for you to pull that second weapon. But what other actions are swift or free? Well, dropping prone is free, and that can be helpful if you want to fire a volley, then drop behind a short hill for cover. Even if you don't have cover, though, lying prone is a +4 bonus to your armor class against enemies trying to take ranged attacks at you. Casting swift spells is obviously a swift action, and they can be lifesavers. You can try to swiftly mount or dismount a riding beast up to one size category bigger than you, as long as you've got a move action left in your round. If you make a ride check at a DC 20, you get up or down as a free action. Fail, and it's still a move. Lots of class features are swift actions too, like a monk spending key points, so that'll vary based on who's in your party. But what about immediate actions? Well, it's essentially a swift action you can take during someone else's turn, but it's important to remember you can only take one swift or one immediate action per round, so choose wisely. This is a great feature for spellcasters, since spells like Featherfall, Stone Shield, or even Emergency Force Sphere and Blaze of Glory can all be cast as immediate actions. Knowing when to break your opponent's flow is often key to making the most of this particular part of your turn. We tend to forget about attacks of opportunity once we hit mid-levels. After all, we're swinging in the big leagues by that point, and one more attack probably isn't going to make or break a fight. Attacks of opportunity are an untapped resource, though, and you can put them to good use if you're clever about it. One way to do that is with the bodyguard feat. It lets you burn an attack of opportunity to make an aid another check on an ally who's currently being attacked. It's only a +2 bonus if you succeed, but if you take the helpful trait, you could boost it to a +3 or even a +4 if you take the trait usually reserved for halflings. If you're a swashbuckler, then you can burn an attack of opportunity to stop the enemy's blow from landing by using your parry ability. Even better, you can take combat reflexes to parry a number of attacks per round equal to your dexterity modifier +1, as long as you've got enough panache to keep up. Another option, if you're a barbarian, is to take the come and get me rage power. Any enemy attacking you gets a bonus to hit, but their attack provokes an attack of opportunity from you first. So you get to take the first shot, and if you take them out, sunder their weapon, or trip them flat on their ass, then they probably won't land their attack anyway. Sometimes you just don't have the steam to get something done in one round. Perfect example is when you've got a snarling ogre choking up on his beat stick, and you know he's going to close on his turn. You want to get the first shot in, but he's too far out even for a charge. So what do? Well, you're ready in action. When you're ready, you declare a specific, standard action and set a trigger. Something like, if that ogre comes within striking distance, I'm going to attack him. This lets you prime your standard action and set it out like a landmine ready to go off. The most important thing to remember about a readied action is that it goes off just before the triggering action does. So if you've got an arrow knocked and you declare you're shooting the wizard if he tries to cast a spell, you get to loose that shaft before the caster gets off his wooge. If you hit, that means he has to make a concentration check not to lose the spell, and that check is modified by how much damage you dealt. That's why an archer with deadly aim and vital strike can turn the tide if the bad guys are counting on their conjurer to make with the magic. Lastly, don't forget, if you haven't moved, you can take a 5-foot step as part of your readied action, which is helpful if someone gets cute trying to play range games with you. There are a lot of ways you can get an edge while you're in the field, but it helps if you're taking every action you can. So remember your options and keep them prepped for when you need them. That's all for me this time around. If you think I had some good advice, then like the video and share it around. While you're at it, why not follow the channel? Check out our Patreon and Facebook in the description below. I don't charge a cover here at Risky Business, but every little bit helps. See you next time, and remember, every action counts.